Hopes of Mr. David Lyon of the All Progressives Congress to be sworn in as the next governor of Bayelsa State tomorrow, Friday the 14th, have been dashed by the Supreme Court, which today nullified his election and that of his running mate. A five-man panel of the Apex Court, led by Justice Mary Odili, ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission to withdraw the certificate of return issued to the APC candidates as the winners of the November the 16th, 2019 governorship election. The court ordered INEC to issue a fresh certificate of return to the candidates of the party with the next highest votes and with the required constitutional spread votes in the results of the election.
In a judgment that lasted barely 30 minutes, the Supreme Court held that from the documents submitted to INEC, the deputy governor-elect forged certificates and, in the manner of a chameleon, used different names when it suits him. Justice Eko, who identified the discrepancies in the names on the primary school leaving certificate, General Certificate of Education, GCE, First Degree, NYSC Discharge Certificate, and the Master's Degree, which bore different names, explains that Mr. Degi Eremenyo did not approach lawful authorities to correct the multiple names on the certificates. The Supreme Court therefore came to the conclusion that the primary school certificate obtained in 1976, GCE in 1984, First Degree in 1990 and others were products of forgery, and that the deputy governor-elect violated Section 182 of the 1999 Constitution. The court therefore voided the joint ticket of David Lyon and his running mate and set aside their participation in the November Bayelsa governorship election. Justice Eko ordered that the certificate of return already issued to the governor-elect by INEC be withdrawn immediately and that a fresh one be issued to the candidate who scored the second highest number of lawful votes with geographical spread and with requisite qualification. Although lawyer to Senator Degi Eremenyo is unavailable for comments, lawyers to the PDP and Senator Diri Doye react to the judgment.
The implication is that the governor will not be sworn in tomorrow, and justice has been done. We thank Almighty God that we have justices that the world is proud of.
The Supreme Court, in its wisdom, has disqualified the candidates of APC, the governorship and deputy governorship candidates, directed that the certificate of return issued to them should be withdrawn, and a new certificate of return issued to the candidates that have the majority of lawful votes cast and have the geographical spread in the governorship election. And I believe my clients merited that.
With the judgment of the Apex Court, the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Senator Diri Doye, who scored the highest lawful votes and with wide geographical spread, is set to take over as the next governor of Bayelsa State.
The Supreme Court judgment that sacked Governor-elect David Lyon today hit Bayelsa State like a shockwave, eliciting different reactions. Supporters of the People's Democratic Party jubilated at the decision, believing that their party will continue in power. In Yenagoa, the state capital, there was an unusual calm, even as rehearsals and other preparations for the anticipated swearing-in of Mr. Lyon had to be called off.
Early on Thursday, upbeat and already, Mr. David Lyon of the APC preparing for inauguration as governor of Bayelsa State, an event scheduled for Friday. Soon, the news filtered into Yenagoa from Abuja. The bombshell has been dropped. Mr. Lyon is sacked by the highest court in the land. Spanner in the works. Mr. Lyon's inauguration jettisoned. The camp of the PDP thrown into a silent jubilation. Mr. Seriake Dixon, the outgoing governor, cannot contain his joy. His supporters are simply in a free flow of joyous display.
The Supreme Court has spoken, and no other person can speak otherwise. And really, the PDP at this point was somehow in this hurry we were hopeless, but still hopeful and believing that God will see us through.
On the street, the feelings are mixed. Some confused, others still in shock.
It surprised me. I think either the government or the court want to set confusion, because a lot of people are confused how it come to happen at this last minute.
Anybody that is coming, whether PDP, APC, ABGA, our own whole, like me as a businessman, I want the state to be viable for businesses to grow so that everybody can just enjoy life once off.
Political leaders in Bayelsa State are already speaking about the outcome of the Supreme Court judgment. The leadership of the APC in Bayelsa State is asking INEC not to issue a certificate of return to Senator Doye Diri.
We are calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission not to issue certificate of return to the candidate of the PDP because the candidate of the PDP was unable to score the required 25% in the two-thirds of the local government.
For Mr. Seriake Dixon, he believes it is a great day for democracy in Nigeria.
Now that the judicial process, the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land, has made a determination, I want to call for tolerance, I want to call for cooperation, I want to call for understanding, I want to call for respect for the processes that are in our system.
Bayelsa State has indeed been thrown into an intense political atmosphere, with obvious interesting days lying ahead.
Meanwhile, the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Comrade Adams Oshomole, is insisting that nobody will be sworn in as the governor of Bayelsa State. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Comrade Oshomole explains that no other candidate has the constitutional spread to be sworn in as governor. While saying that the party respects the judiciary, he says the judgment of the Supreme Court lacks the ingredients of justice, stating that using technicalities to nullify the wish of the people puts democracy under threat. He insists that the party will challenge the judgment.
If, as the Supreme Court has ruled, David Lyon cannot now be sworn in as governor, and the person who has the highest number of votes and a spread be sworn in, it simply means that from tomorrow there will be no government in Bayelsa State. Because as far as we know, the next candidate, because these facts are before courts, who happened to be a PDP candidate, does not have 1/4 of the total lawful vote cast. In that 1/4 of the votes of the vote cast in that election, in 2/3 of the 8 local governments in Bayelsa State. And therefore, from the facts available to us, and in due consultation with our lawyers, it is clear that there is no candidate that meets the requirement of the Supreme Court, which means no one can be sworn in legally tomorrow unless there is deliberate abuse of the legal process. We have accordingly asked our lawyers to look at all the windows that exist in law.
Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party has described the judgment of the Supreme Court as a restoration of its mandate in the Bayelsa State governorship election. But the party is also insisting that the Apex Court must right the wrongs in the Imo governorship election judgment. This is contained in a statement from the PDP National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Kola Ologbodion, who says the Apex Court will be redeeming its image and restoring public confidence as well. Meanwhile, in another reaction from the PDP camp, the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, also asked the federal government to warn the national chairman of the APC, Adams Oshomole, to stop making inflammatory remarks capable of destabilizing the country. Governor Wike, in a statement, criticized Mr. Oshomole for saying that there will be no swearing in of the PDP candidates in Bayelsa State, insisting he has no such powers. He added that the APC chairman is making unguarded statements because he has lost the support of APC governors and is seeking to curry favor through what he described as careless talk. And we move on that issue, and the candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the Bayelsa State governorship election, Senator Doyo Diri, has been reacting to the judgment of the Supreme Court as well, which nullified the election of Mr. David Lyon for fielding a running mate with questionable credentials. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Senator Diri says the verdict of the court is not enough to cause disaffection among the people of Bayelsa State, irrespective of political affiliation.
Notwithstanding whether we are APC or we are PDP, or even within the PDP, I kept telling every brother, father, friend I met during the campaigns that whatever that is making you angry, you cannot throw away the bathwater and the baby away. And I believe that this is the first time that Bayelsa has been able to have a conclusive 8 years tenure in history. And it is the first time again that Bayelsa, a governor, will hand over to another governor peacefully. And so I am waving the olive branch to all my people in PDP who out of one thing or the other got angry and left us to APC. I'm waving the olive branch. Please come back. We have to build Bayelsa State together. Brothers in APC, they are Bayelsans. We cannot continue to be in disunity. Being in APC does not remove you as my brother of Bayelsa State. Whether you are Nimbe, whether you are Ogbea, whether you are Sabama, whether you are Southern Niger, that is the region that God has brought us together.